With your death, this nightmare may finally end.
I've killed countless thousands. What's one more?
Did you really think this would work?
Welcome exiles to the second build diary of my One with Nothing Totems build. The build has improved quite significantly since the last time. Now, if you're just popping to this video and haven't seen the previous one, you can watch that, but it's not really needed. I'm going to explain how the build functions along the way. Now, what you've seen in the beginning of the video was a quick montage of latest boss fights. They're all on Awakener level 8. And the hunter went down really fast. I did have Wall Ancestor Worship for him and better gear than on Drox. On Drox I was missing a Curse Ring and I was missing Rage, so that's why the boss fight was a bit longer, but I still wanted to include that so you can see like the difference that adding a curse makes, I guess. It wasn't that expensive, like that curse ring was 10 chaos, which is not a lot, and the addition of rage also wasn't like too expensive. It was with a timeless jewel. I can't remember how much it was, but it's not really expensive. It's maybe 20-30 chaos, maybe even less. I'm not like 100% sure. We can price check that later on. But the build works just fine. It's now in its budget state. I haven't invested a lot. The most expensive item is Wild Wrap, and yeah, that's kind of expensive because it has to be off-colored, and a 6 link is usually expensive, but this one also has to have it's all green usually because it's a dexterity chest and you need 5 reds on it, maybe 4 if you kind of add some conk effect or something, but that's kind of blue, so it's still off color. So that's kind of why that chest is expensive. I have mine, but I started making additional ones when I run Vorici, and they end up I usually buy them for 30-40 chaos and I can sell them for up to 200, and that is kind of nice profit. Well, that's what you have to pay. That's the initial entry to the build, I guess. You can use some other random corrupted 6 link in the beginning. It will work, don't get me wrong, but it's not gonna be as powerful since that item gives a lot of dexterity. Anyways, exiles, let's kind of get into nitty-gritty of the build and jump into path of building to see how the build works. So there are quite a few changes from the previous skill tree that they've added, and I also leveled up to level 90, and this is like what we had before. I think that's what I showed in the previous video. So some things moved around, we added some new timeless jewels and things like that. So let's go over everything as it is and what I want to improve in future. So first of all, I added this timeless jewel, Little Pride, with warriors under Akoya, if I'm pronouncing that right. But that is going to turn this node here into a chain breaker, and chain breaker gives you, instead of regenerating mana, you regenerate rage. So regenerate 3 rage per second, increases reductions to mana regeneration rate, instead apply to rage regeneration rate, and you lose rage when you hit enemy, and no more than 0.3 seconds. So basically, if we were hitting enemies, this would be terrible. You would need a lot of mana regeneration rate nodes on a skill tree, but we are not hitting enemies that often. We just sometimes to get fortify or to move through somewhere, since it's kind of easier with Cyclone. And that's kind of, I'm not dealing too much damage with Cyclone anymore, and it's kind of different beast, and there's gonna be like a third iteration of this that I'm going to explain soon, but it might actually lose this jewel in future, we'll see. But for now it wasn't like really expensive. I decided, let's add that thing, looks interesting, and it does actually give me quite a decent chunk of damage. If we go into configuration and just remove the rage, you can see that it is not like too much, but every bit counts, I guess. It's another, what here, 2 million, 2.9 to 3.7, well shy of a million damage on a war chief, and I have 2 of those, so that's 2 million damage. Adds a bit of on a Cyclone. We also have the protector, which is here. It does do also a decent damage, even though he's not like 6 link, he still does a lot of damage. And we also have Cyclone, which we don't use that often. So actually, we should be on that one. That's 2 million damage with that, without this. So it's 500,000 damage there. It is a decent chunk of damage, definitely. So that's one thing that they added. We had Mortal Conviction before, and going through Blood Magic here, we had that before, but now it's kind of more kind of useful, I guess, since we're not really using mana anyways. We get most out of getting that thing, and we also get rage from this. Obviously there is the jewel, this is a little pride. Glorious Vanity gives dexterity, and it would be better, but that needs to be rolled. I think it's Glorious Vanity. Timeless Jewel, or was it Brutal Restraint? It's Brutal Restraint, I think. Doesn't matter in what I grab them, is just add one. It's right here. It should give some dexterity on nodes. Let me see. Yeah, that one is kind of better for us, but it does actually require you to roll. That's a wrong jewel. Fluid motion. It requires you to roll it with divines to actually hit good nodes on these notables, and that is usually expensive. Though the timeless jewels are so cheap this league, I think you're better off not rolling, but instead buying them and just trying them out. If it doesn't work out, you just sell them. But you might be rebuying the same ones, so you probably would buy, I don't know, 20-30 of them, and then have like a big pile of timeless jewels that you don't know what to do, and will have a really hard time selling. I don't know what's the solution. I haven't checked, like the price of divines are probably also tanked since they drop a lot in heist, so maybe it's actually cheaper to roll them. But either way, it's not as expensive to actually go that route and just roll that, but I'm not at that stage, I guess, in the build. I don't want to invest that much, so that would get us to that crazy numbers that we had. But at the moment I don't even have enough levels. I think on level 95 I can rework the skill tree quite a bit, I went for a bit more defenses since I was doing enough damage, so why not? So I removed one. I had one extra ancestral guidance. I think I had 4 of them. Yeah, I had 4 of them, but I decided to remove that. That is a decent chunk of damage, don't get me wrong. And once I get a few more levels, I'm gonna go here and add another medium jewel and get that probably for more damage, but at the moment I don't have that. The second thing is we don't really need Master of Fundamentals. I had that as an idea while I was Berserker, so since capping resists would be fairly hard, so I decided to just unspec that and get Phase Acro, maybe. I'm not sure about that. You do lose armor, lose chance to block, and should be less defenses. Let me see. So 30% chance to dodge hits, 50% less armor, 30% less energy shield, 30% less chance to block. Only thing that's kind of bad for us is 50% less armor. It's kind of bad, but we also have 5 endurance charges, which are not affected by armor, so it's not as terrible. So what is our actual phase damage reduction? Chance to evade. Armor is kinda... it's around 60%. And if we would to remove this, it would probably go to 73. It's kinda... we get most of our phase damage reduction through endurance charges, actually, not through the armor. And when we have endurance charges, if I was to remove that, that's like 30%, maybe less. But still. And I also have Immortal Call, which makes me immune to physical damage. So I kind of decided to go this route, try it out. I wasn't dying before. I mean, I had few one-shots, but I don't have a lot of HP. But still kind of nice to try it out. Go that evasion kind of route with Wind Dancer and a bit of dodge. We'll see if it's needed. Probably not. So I will probably go back and spec this into... it's kind of it has to be tested in game. If you're gonna start getting one-shotted and start taking a lot of damage, maybe better to invest into some defenses. If you're not dying, why not like go more DPS? So that has to be balanced in game. Can't really balance it in POE totally. It has to be tested. And what else? The Ascendancy is pretty much the same. I talked about it in last video, so I was pleasantly surprised with this thing here. I wasn't like playing Chieftain that often. I think I played once as a Righteous Fire, but that went into this kind of route here, this part of, and didn't take this stuff here. So Valako Storm Embrace gives you the uptime on this 50% more damages all the time, since I'm using Immortal Call, and it generates endurance charges all the time, so you're always kept on... I now have 5 endurance charges all the time basically, and if I don't have them, I have Immortal Call, which makes me immune to damage, so it's kind of pretty good. This thing is awesome for totems leech. So totems leech damage, totem damage leached is basically given to you. So basically totems do damage, but you get the leech effect kind of deal, and you get the increase buff effect, which is huge for us. That's giving a lot of damage. This is also giving about the same damage. So this 50% increase effect of buffs granted by totems is kinda equal to like 15% more damage at the moment. Might be more depending on like increases, decreases, and various sources of damage. Tassalio cleansing water is also crazy. It gives you a lot of regeneration, gives you fire res, making it really easy to keep your resist and making the build way less expensive than it should be. Since it's really hard for us to actually have dexterity everywhere, and dexterity is a suffix and resistances are a suffix, so they fight each other, so this helps quite a bit. And you're unaffected by ignite, 50% increased life regen. If you take in fire damage, it's all solid there. I mean, you get a lot of regen. You lose basically almost all the fire res there. The arrow, I don't have a clue how to pronounce that. Moon's presence. Totems are immune to fire, kinda nice. Not mandatory, but it's nice. Enemies near your totems deal less damage. Enemies near your totem take increased physical damage, so that's another 15%. You can think of this like this 15%, this 15%, this 15%. It's not like as good as something like Berserker, you get like 40% here. This triples the rage, I think. Here, tripled, yeah, that's like a huge damage increase. It's not that, but every node of this is perfectly balanced. You get some defenses, you get some offenses. Defense, offense, defense, offense. I mean, all of them are like that. And that makes Chieftain a really balanced ascendancy, and it doesn't like... it can be either totems or some fire damage kind of build. But for totems, you don't have to have fire totems. I mean, nobody's forcing you to go down here. I mean, it is a huge damage multiplier. You would probably take that instead of this, maybe even this. I'm not sure. Not that, but maybe this. I don't know. So it is a huge multiplier here. Probably this, but you don't have to go that route. You can go impale. Nobody forcing you to do that. One thing that I would kind of like is another like endurance charge and a whole bunch of other stuff. I would like to have enough levels to actually pick these things up. Maybe in that other variant, for more damage, I drop this nonsense here so I can have more auras. Then I would probably not go down here at all, but would take this one, this socket. It would be more optimal skill tree for DPS, and it would be more expensive, since in that route I would have to sort out my mana issues, which were horrendous, since the Ancestral Warchief costs 49 mana and you run out of mana really fast, so you would have to use probably Enduring Mana Flask or Cinder Swallow, or you would have to use a Leech, Mana Leech, but you would have to Leech, so you would take something like this one Mana Leech node, and then you would hit with Cyclone to actually regenerate your mana before you're able to place another totem. And you would obviously like lose these two life nodes here, so it is a kind of different beast and requires more investment. I also want to try running the what is called that ring. I'm kind of leveling stuff for that. It is should be some kind of loop. Hungry loop, yeah. This thing, which consumes skill gems, and that I would consume support skill gems, and you can have up to 4 support gems in an active skill, so it's technically a 5-link. And I was thinking of 5-linking Warchief, and then I would use Cyclone as a DPS kind of deal. But yeah, those are just like experiments. The build itself works just fine. The items are nothing special. We have, let me see. I have to click here. So, why is that not showing? So it's random rare helmet with resists life and dexterity. It wasn't that expensive. I think I actually bought it without life and then I added life to it. Maybe it was 10 chaos. I'm not sure. It's probably less. We have wild wrap, which is expensive. You have the right colors. It should be around like 180 to 200 chaos. If you're paying more than that, you should probably do the Vorichi. If this is like not your first character, probably have other characters. You have June missions. Just farm up Vorichi and make the wild wrap with white sockets. Garukan's flights are not expensive at all. They used to be in previous leagues, but it's like not that much this league. Astromet is not expensive. 2 really cheap rings. One does have curse enemies with vulnerability. That one is probably gonna cost you like 10 cows. Or I think I paid something like that, 10-15 cows. This one is like 1 to 3 cows. I don't know. It has just 1 resist on it. That's what I needed, and like has 2 crappy stats that are useless, and 1 is crafted, so you could just look for 1 res dex and open prefix to craft life. So that's not expensive. We have Lion's Roar, again, a not expensive flask. Chemist Quicksilver for running. We have Fist Damage Reduction Flask that is... since I went for phase acro, this is a nice way to kind of reduce physical damage. I think we also reduce physical damage through Ascendancy. I think 10% is taken as fire, so that's another 10%. That's kind of nice. We could also add what is called Taste of Hate, but we have to kind of remove brutality, I think. So yeah, I think it's this. So you have 20% physical damage from hits taken as cold during flask effects. So you would have 10% taken as fire, 20 is cold, and you have endurance charges, so physical damage would really not be a problem. You have phase acro and other stuff. Kind of interesting. But you would have to remove brutality, and I'm not sure like which flask I would drop. Probably I don't know. Honestly, I'm not sure. It's kind of an idea. Maybe phasing flask. But that's also pretty good for dodge to get another 10%. And you don't really need a life flask, honestly. But then you would need to... This would need... One of the flasks then needs to be remove bleed flask. Probably quartz flask, since it has consumes less charges than basalt. Basalt consumes way too many charges. So yeah, this would be anti-bleed flask, and this would be Taste of Hate, but then I would need to remove the brutality, since this says you deal no elemental damage. And another thing that's gonna be an issue on elemental reflect map, I would have to not use Taste of Hate and have to think about both Fizz Reflect and Ellie Reflect, which is annoying. Though the totems would die, you wouldn't, since you usually start with totems and you rarely hit something with Cyclone. So it's just an idea. So there's few ideas there. Then you could also use a Sirus for Chaos. You could use that. I'm not sure. Let's see. Flask. I'm not sure how it's called, honestly. Promise, yeah. So you would get 20% of physical damage as extra chaos damage. That cannot be reflected, that's kind of fine. Then you get 30 chaos res, so you would deal a bit of chaos, a bit of Cold and fizz, so you would it would actually be okay since you would also freeze enemies a bit, I think, or at least chill them. I don't know. Then our 40% added damage. So those are like some ideas, but the main idea is to kind of drop this thingy here, but that's gonna be expensive. I would have to get rings that have minus mana on them, so or kind of try this here. I wouldn't have enough slots for my skills since we don't have weapons or gloves, making it a bit kind of hard to fit in everything to add another aura or something like that. That's why I'm kind of thinking of reallocating Wall Ancestor Warchief into Hungry Loop and Cyclone into a 6-link, and Ancestral Protector is gonna be like its own thing probably, and then I would have enough room to fit in something like Blood and Sand, Flesh and Stone, Maim, kind of regular setup that we usually use with Cyclone. Anyways, those are kind of some ideas. The build is still in works. It can be used as it is, but use it kind of, I don't know, some disclaimer. If you're using it, it's not like 100% yet. We'll have to kind of fiddle around more with it. But for a budget build, it kills bosses pretty fast. Anyways, Exiles, I think I talked enough. If you have some ideas for the build, let me know. Even better, send me a POE if you change something. And I will see you in the next one.